video right now. And then we're going to pick back up again now with our white square. 10 by 10 square is what you should have in front of you. And we're going to first divide it in half, and then we're going to divide it into quarters, and we're using our ruler. So the first thing we do is with a ruler, 0 on the ruler has to be right on the edge of the paper. So if your ruler is not quite like mine, where 0 is the edge of the ruler, there might be a little line right near the edge, then you're going to have to move your ruler and the paper so that 0 lines up with the edge. When you do this, you'll see that 10 lines up with your other side of the paper because this is a 10-inch square. That's very important. We need to have it nice and lined up, otherwise our measurements are not going to be right. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide it in half. So 10 inches, what's half of 10 inches? Do some math. It's 5. So we make a little mark at 5. And it's also very important that you put it right on the big line. That is the 5. You don't want to do it above the 5 or one of these other little lines. It has to be that big line that is 5. Now that's half. What's a quarter? What's a quarter of 10? Well, half of a half, so half of 5 is 2.5. So we're going to make a little mark at 2.5. Now over here it's a little trickier. I could slide my ruler over so that it's 5 inches again and do 2.5. Or I could use some math and figure out that half of between 5 and 10 is 7.5. So I'm going to make a mark at 7.5. So with your ruler, make a mark at 2.5, 5, and 7.5. Then, once you've done that, we're going to slide it down to the bottom and do it again. 2.5, 5, 7.5. Now we're going to turn our square over to the blank side that we haven't done yet and do the same thing. 2.5, 5, 7.5. Slide it down. 2.5, 5, 7.5. And I'm going to write it on the board here in a minute, and hopefully your teacher will write it on the board too to help you remember. Once you have 3 little lines on all 4 sides, you're ready to make lines. So you hold your ruler on those little marks that we made. You make sure it's nice and straight, and now you're using your ruler as a straight edge, so it doesn't really matter where you place your ruler as long as it's lined up on those lines, and you're going to make a line. We want these lines to be light, okay? So don't press really hard with your pencil into the paper. We want it to be light because we might be erasing these later. So my trick is to hold your pencil way down close by the eraser. When you hold it up tight, that's how you press really hard, and that's important when you're taking a test or writing. But right now we want to hold it way down here, and so when we make a line, it automatically becomes a light line. So make 3 lines going across, and I'm going very fast for the video, and then we go 3 lines this way, and we will end up with that grid. And I have an example here. I did this in Sharpie. Please don't Sharpie your lines. This is just so you can see it. So we have the half, and then we have the quarter. So what was it again? 2.5, 5, 7.5. So 2.5, 5, and 7.5. Those are your 3 lines on both sides. And then you will have 16 little squares. Now, once you have this, you can start drawing your lines, looking at your little practice sheet, figuring out where you need to do lines. And when you do those lines, very helpful to use the ruler when you want to do that. So then you would hold it at the diagonal and make your line. And then it's nice and perfectly straight. And then you're ready to color, and you can decide what you're going to leave white and what you're going to color. Leaving areas white really helps make your pattern pop out and stand out. These would look very different if they didn't have the white on it. And also, you want to pick out a color palette. What is a color palette? Well, that's 3 colors that you really like together. I would limit the coloring to either 3 colors or 4 colors. So here I have yellow, pink, and the sky blue. And that is what I used for this quilt star right here. So I limited to 3 colors. And then I did the outside, the blue, and the middle, the pink and the yellow. And the other one here, I did purple, green, and orange. And you can see that I did green on 4 areas, purple on 4 areas, and orange on 4 areas. So it's very even. There's not one color that dominates or overtakes the piece here. Here's an example where we used too many colors. This uses 6 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And it's just kind of busy, and there's not a lot of white areas that were left over, and so there's not really an overall pattern to this one. It's just a bunch of triangles that were colored. And although it is like red and orange and green, there's still not really just a pattern. So try to avoid that. This fun little die here, I never showed on the board, but this is called a bow tie. And you can see that's where you take 1 square and make an X through it, and then you make 4 triangles. And it's fun to leave the top 2 white and only color the side 2. And that makes a triangle, a little bow tie. And you can see that here too, that we have the bow tie. And then here, you kind of see like a cross. That's another pattern that you could do, or an X, a big X. And that's where you would take diagonal lines going through from this corner to, or this side to this side. So that's another idea you could use, but just maybe not so many colors. So I hope that it's fun, and I can't wait to see them up in the hallway. Bye.